State and Georgia are our biggest motivation right now. Those two games were not good for us. We want those back, and so I guess it's just preparing because we won the Big Ten championship. We won Ohio State, but we want more than that right now.
They want more. Oh, Billie Jean and Aiden Hutchinson, you can thank for having Michael Jackson trending. Hutchinson performance on Hard Knocks last night. The person you heard there at the start was Michigan left tackle Ryan Hayes talking about what motivates the Wolverines. It's those losses last year to Georgia and to Michigan State that is serving as a big motivational factor for the Wolverines in camp. Welcome in, Maize and Blue Review. I'm Dennis Fithian. It is Michigan football today. It might as well be called Michigan Football Nuggets today because we have a bunch for you. We are live weekdays at 1 o'clock talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And as it just so happens today, we've got a bunch of things. And I think this is just what it's going to be for the rest of the month until kickoff because, in the summer, there's not as many things. You got to sift through and you're like, hey, that's something we can talk about. That's something. And you got to look around. There's something. Now there is just a bevy of things to talk about, the topics. It's a gigantic cornucopia. You just walk up there, you say, okay, this is one, this is one, this is one. And you can sit here and I could sit here for 5 hours talking about everything, that is going on with Michigan. We're going to condense it down to about an hour. Who knows? I can stay here all day. I could just sit here and talk Michigan all day long. And with that, what really helps is if you out there get involved, you can message the show in and instantaneously I put your thoughts up on the screen and we talk about what's on your mind because I can tell you what's on my mind all day long, which I will do. But it's always nice to hear from the people and see just where they are at. There's the thumbnail for today's show. And you get a picture of Junior Colson, number 25, who started as a true freshman last year for Michigan. And the first thing you might think this is a little bit of what I call clickbait, saying that that Michigan's defense, can it be better than it was last year? And you think, wait a second, Michigan, you just talked about Aiden Hutchinson. He was the second pick overall in the NFL draft. David Ajabo would have been a first rounder. Dax Hill was a first rounder. And you're sitting around talking about, can Michigan's defense be better than 22? Well, if they can get those playmakers, I think that they can be better. Now, and it's not just me that thinks that they can be better on that side of the ball. We do have practice nuggets for you. I think we're going to have those daily for you now, right up until kickoff. And, of course, we'll have a bunch there. Also, the divorce, the separation of the worldwide leader and the Big Ten. No more football or basketball games on ESPN unless you make the college football playoff. Then you'll be on there. But I know that news broke. I bet it broke 2 days ago. I thought about talking about it yesterday, but there was so much. I didn't put it in the show sheet. Today, I will talk about the ESPN pullout, but I want to start talking about the Michigan defense and the notion that it could be better this year. Now, just for a little bit of background, I don't want to get too much into the weeds here. I put some statistics on the screen, and you may know this already, chapter and verse if you're a Michigan football fan. The Wolverines played 14 games with the addition of the Big Ten championship game and the Orange Bowl, which was the semifinal. Michigan played 14 games. In those 14 games, they gave up just over 17 points a game, which at the end had them ranked as the number 8 defense, a top 10 defense last year for Jim Harbaugh's Big Ten champs. Now, if you look at ESPN and pull up their statistics, team defense, they will have the points per game, and yet they do not include the Orange Bowl or the semifinal. And you have Michigan just playing 13 games. And remember, they almost blanked Iowa. They won that game 42-3. But if you pull out the semifinal, you just have Michigan as a top 4 defense. And a lot of people say you should just look at the conference games. So I did that too. If you just look at the conference games, you will notice that Michigan is behind Whiskey, Penn State, Iowa, Illinois. They were 5th last year in the 9 games that they played in the conference. Not bad, giving up 19 points per game, but they did well in the Big Ten championship game. Of course, they did well in the non-conference last year against Western, who they held to single digits, Washington, and then Northern Illinois, who they held both of those teams to 10 points. And a lot of times you say, hey, non-conference, throw those out the window. And a lot of people will be wanting to do that with Michigan this year and next year because they don't really play anybody in the non-conference. But even if you just go with the conference games, you say, well, you'd have better statistics if you played in the Big Ten West. And you'd have better statistics if you didn't have the crossover games. I mean, you can make the case, for that when it comes down to the Big Ten East, depending on who are your crossover games. So it's subjective every time that I think that's my point here. But, Michigan, the question is, can they have a better defense than last year? And for that, I am thinking that they can. Now, they need some playmakers. And we have gone over this a million times. The Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo sacked the quarterback between the two of them 25 times. They also led the teams in tackles for loss. Those are plays. Those are big-time playmakers. You think about the Michigan State game, the play that got overruled inexplicably when Hutchinson ripped the Michigan State quarterback and Ajabo dove on the ball. I think that's the way it went. It could have been the other way around. And, that was going to be a huge play in the game. And then the refs overturned it without clear and concise video evidence. And what are you going to do? But, I'm not revisiting that game so much, just that, and I know, and anybody that talks about Michigan, and especially if you're going to talk about the defense, you start with replacing those two. And then you get to Dax Hill, who was a first-round pick. And then you get to Josh Ross, who you think about making plays. If you remember the first third down against Ohio State in the second half, it was Ross who went up and made the big play on a 3rd and 1 and planted Henderson into the ground like a tulip, and Ohio State had to punt. That's a playmaker. You think about Brad Hawkins at the end of the Nebraska game making that play and securing the Michigan victory. That was a play. So they've got playmakers that they have to replace in those 4, Hutchinson, Ajabo, Ross, and Hill. But they've got some candidates when you think about Morris, Upshaw, Harold Colson, who was pictured at the beginning, Rod Moore, DJ Turner, Will Johnson. As I was typing down these names, I thought, I could probably take, what do I have, 4, 5, 6, 7? I could probably take these 7 players. I could probably put up another 7 that you could put as candidates. Of course, they would be candidates for, but legit candidates that could be playmakers for this Michigan defense. Now, is it all good? Is this a sure thing? I'm talking about the chance. And we have audio. Jim Harbaugh was asked specifically this week about the potential of this year's defense.
Well, I think it's potential, and you kind of seen it develop before your own eyes. I really think that our defense can be better. A no-star defense. I've been a part of many of them that were the great defenses.
A no-star defense. I was going to say, if you're old enough, you can remember the no-name defense, but I'm not old enough. But I know the no-name defense. It was the undefeated 72 Dolphins who had the no-name defense, and then later they had the killer bees, didn't they, for the 72? Somebody can remember that 72 Dolphin defense. I think they also had a resurgence, maybe a 2.0, even a 3.0 version, the Dolphins, of a no-name defense. And, that's what Jim Harbaugh talking about, a no-star defense. I mean, there are plenty of stars like Will Johnson, but a no-name defense. You know, I got DJ Turner's name, who I am going to be talking about, and I don't have Mozzie Smith's name included in the playmaker list. He should be up there. And those guys, I believe, were both 3 stars. So maybe that's what Jim Harbaugh is talking about. He's got a bunch of guys over there that he's thinking could be, superstars, stars, playmakers, all the things that go into of what we're talking about here. Bundle indicating on the feedback immediately that the defense will be better. Mozzie Smith will be a first-team All-American. Antoine following up, thinking that Ohio State's secondary is pretty thin on the corners. And he heard that one of the Buckeyes is moving up to linebacker. He's fast. But as far as him going up against a lineman, that's a win for Michigan. TP, it's good to see him. He's had a run here of a couple days. The punters saying Michigan has incredible talent on defense. His only hesitation is Minter. The D is really Minter's show. Harbaugh in the past has tended to be laissez-faire on that side of the ball. Well, he did turn things over to McDonald. I think the thing about Minter is he's got way more experience as a coordinator than McDonald did. But both of these guys are kind of cut from the same cloth. So it feels like, without trying to be like, hey, this is the Michigan line here, that it's just going to be more of the same. I believe, because they are, and they came from the same system, they work together, that the 3-4 and what McDonald was trying to do last year, that Minter is going to pick up and going to continue that. Now you have to be able to coordinate a defense. And honestly, if you go back, as much as praise, and McDonald deserves praise, he also got completely outmaneuvered against Michigan State and up in East Lansing. And, you want to say he cost him the game. Now, look, if Michigan didn't win the Big Ten, we would be emphasizing that loss at Michigan State so much. And a lot of it would be directed at Mike McDonald. The hurry up, getting outflanked, all these different things. I mean, he wasn't ready for it. He looked like a rookie coach. And, the credit goes to MSU there, as much as you might not want to give him the credit. And, maybe specifically if you want to go to Kenneth Walker. But my point is that, McDonald is as good as he was as a coordinator, and the statistics that Michigan had, they had a bad game defensively up in East Lansing. I mean, they damn near gave up 40 points. They could not stop Kenneth Walker. They could not get him on the ground. He scored 5 touchdowns. And the Nebraska game, Nebraska scored 29 points all in the second half. Remember, Michigan was blanking the black shirts at the break in Lincoln last year, and then they scored 29 points. Needed a incredible second half, and that big play by Hawkins that I was referring to win that game. So, we're talking about the defense here and the candidates. Adrian saying, what's up? AJ saying he's talking about this Buckeye player that is moving. Hawkins was reliable but a bit slow. We have more speed to replace him. Hey, Hawkins to me was a hell of a football player, and he did make that play. You're looking for playmakers, but maybe they will have a little bit more speed with Rod Moore and R.J. Moten, and who knows, Keon Sabb. There appears, and we talked about this in yesterday's show, and those are all available, podcast, YouTube, anywhere else. We talked about those freshman DBs, and Keon Sabb, he could be somebody, with Rod Moore and Makari Page and R.J. Moten. There could be a freshman influence there at safety. Hell, it could be Will Johnson that moves over there. Oh, yeah, and didn't Harbaugh mention Zeke Berry? He mentioned him as a comp to Rod Moore. Rod Moore being a safety, and Zeke Berry coming in corner safety. You think that he's going to play safety too. So there you go. LTM making a point about Michigan's defense being better. He says he thinks they'll have more interceptions this year to cover the 25 sacks from last year. Yeah, Scott making that point about Kenneth Walker. I know. Yeah, I know. Let's see what Antoine has to say about the state game last year. McDonald was too worried about getting into the perfect defense. He could have just had them in a base zone defense or a man blitz. It wasn't like State was dangerous passing. Well, Antoine, you say that, and yet you go back and watch that game. It's incredible that twice, Michigan State was down 16 points, and then there was probably like a string of 5 calls that, they went to the review on some of these, not the Ajabo Hutchinson one that went against Michigan, but a couple other ones, like the ball, just caught off the top blades of grass on a 4th and 1 by Reed. And okay, that one goes Michigan State's way. Oh, here's another one out of bounds. That one goes Michigan State's way. Their State's down 16, and they have a 4th and 1 mixed in there. They were making some plays. Of course, it helps when you've got KW3 doing what he did for that play action. They were hitting their receivers, and they were a big factor in that game. But, all these things play off of one another. But, Walker, I think we can all agree, was the star. Now, let's get to some nuggets. We got some practice nuggets. And then there's this particular story that came out today that I wanted to let everybody in on. And Bruce Feldman has done this for a couple of years. He works for The Athletic. But he puts out this freak list. He talks to the coaches and the strength trainers, and they come up and say, hey, this guy can do this. This guy's incredible. All of these things. Well, the number 1 player on Feldman's freak list this year was Mazi Smith, Michigan defensive tackle, number 58. And he put a bunch of superlatives about Mazi Smith and the things that he could do and why he ended up putting him at number 1. I just put one of the items here. Mazi Smith can bench 325 pounds 22 times. He put that he had a close grip bench of 550. Now, look, it's easier to bench with just a regular. If it would have just said Mazi Smith puts up 550 on the bench, to me that sounds like out of this world, 550. But it wasn't even a regular bench. It was a close grip. So I'm guessing that Mazi Smith could do more than 550. Those numbers are just incredible. And let's see. We have the video here from the Athletic. We do. Let's get it up on the screen. Let's get rid of me. And number 1 on the list, defensive tackle Mazi Smith. We're going to have a video of the Wolverines reactive plyo stairs test, or as I've been calling it, the RPST. Smith did it in 2.82 seconds. Aiden Hutchinson, who weighs 60 pounds less than Mazi, did it in 2.57 seconds. What you do is that you take these gigantic stairs and you hop up them. And we have Mazi at the bottom, and he's just taking these gigantic steps. Now, myself, it kind of looks like Mazi Smith is like 6 inches tall, and he's running up like regular steps. But that's not the case. It's actually the gigantic steps. If you've ever taken 2 steps at a time, it can be difficult. I've never done anything like this. I do see people at the gym, like jumping up onto like platforms, and sometimes they walk up on those platforms with dumbbells. I've never gotten into that myself, but you can watch a little bit of this, and here he is. I wonder if your average person, you can do one, but would you just be able to? Nobody's doing it like in 2.62 seconds or whatever. They timed Mazi out doing this, but I wonder if I was just down there, if I could even. I'm sure I could hop up to 1, but then would I be able to, wherever I'd landed? Would I just be able to go up there? Would I make it? I don't know the answer to that. I would have to take a look at how much runway you have after getting up the step, because you might have to jump forward. And I know that I would be tired after the third step. But I don't know how many times. It looks like looks like they had a picture of me running down the steps here with somebody's belly hanging out. Hey, you could get rid of that. That's why he's out there. I'm not a lineman though. Bellies for linemen aren't bad. So how about that? So let's just see what some of the folks are saying here. Ryan Williams talking about the linebackers getting cooked in the Nebraska game, and they used that no-huddle offense. You're right. Michigan State did that too, leaking out those running backs out of the backfield against the Michigan linebackers. That, Bryant? I know that. I know the Michigan coaching staff knows it. I know all those linebackers know it. I know that George Hilo, the linebackers coach, knows that. And I know Minter must know that too now. He's been told. I would guess that they've worked on that. They better have. I think teams are going to test them. LTM likes the linebackers. Scott wants to see Grant versus Dennis in a 40-yard dash. Dennis gets a 10-yard head start. Well, hang on with Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant weighs 360. And he runs under a 540. I don't know. I would be at this point right now. I would want a couple of weeks to at least get out there and do some stretching and running, because I feel like if I got out there and just started running the 40 right now, that I might be able to get it around at a 5.0. I'm not sure. I feel confident that I'd be able to go under 6, but I also feel like I could be given a max effort and pull something. OJ Jr. saying, was this 4-8 timed electronic? They called it a GPS, which I'm not familiar. Like, I know what a global positional system is with the car and with my phone, but I'm guessing that technology, when he said it was a GPS, that's better than hand time, but is it better than that's electronic? Because 4-8 is incredible. Like that's Deion. That's Deion Sanders. We're going to talk more about that 4-8 because I found that incredible. Sparty has another running back transfer from Colorado. Similar build and quickness to Walker. Thinks Michigan's defense will be better, but I don't think MSU's offense is going to drop off either. Yeah, look, I had Michigan State ranked number 10 in the preseason, so I think they're going to be a little bit better than most other people, Michigan fans. And out of one of those two, they got the transfer from Whiskey and the transfer from Colorado. The transfer from Wisconsin was in there a little bit last year. Yeah, between the two of them, you would think that one of them, I don't know if you're going to get any Kenneth Walker. I mean, Kenneth Walker was the best running back in the country last year. And if he didn't really, after the Michigan game, I put Kenneth Walker as the number one candidate to win the Heisman. He was my number one pick to win the Heisman after the game. What was that? The last day? How many days are there in October? October 31? The second to last day to October last year. I had him as the number one on my Heisman list. Of course, he dropped down quick after that. He, whether he got banged up or just whatever he did, came up lame against Ohio State, and he ended up dropping off the page, while others in rivalry games like Aiden Hutchinson showed out, went off, and KW3 got passed to the surprise and disgust of Michigan State fans. They hated it. I saw a lot of Michigan State fans who are also Lion fans today. The Hard Knocks last night. I watched a little bit of it. I have it taped. A lot of State fans were like, it was 80% about Aiden Hutchinson. Well, he was the number 2 pick overall. What do you think? These State fans are having a hard time. Hey, once your guy goes pro and he plays for your team, you're supposed to like him. They can't be holding that State grudge. State fans don't like Aiden Hutchinson. They still have a grudge. and they have not been able to release it. I did 325 4 times and almost passed out. Yeah, I don't think I could take 325 off the bar. I think that would injure me. Somebody told me Monty Smith had a 44-inch vertical. I read the story. I don't remember seeing 44-inch vertical, but I also saw somebody else post that. So maybe that story did, which seems like you better have, if you're Bruce Feldman and you're making a freak list and you're putting out the number one guy in your freak list, you better have your superlatives and the numbers, sourced in and correct. 44-inch vertical sounds pretty incredible to me. And Malachi say he could do it in like 4 minutes. Yeah, a 4-minute deal. Ajabo wasn't on anybody's radar last year. After a COVID year injury, we finally had a good offseason. Our D-line is going to shock people. Maybe. I think the Michigan defense has a chance to be better. Will they be better? You don't have to have a top 10 defense, but I need a top 20 defense. And I need a top 20 defense that's opportunistic. Somebody mentioned, Michigan coming up with more interceptions. That would be helpful. That's an opportunistic defense. Forcing turnovers, opportunistic defense. Also, a defense that what Brad Hawkins did at the end of the Nebraska game, or how Michigan's defense had that 4 and out. Remember, there was the 6 minutes remaining against Penn State. Certainly, Eric All had the 47-yard touchdown. But then the defense needed a 4 and out. Penn State got the ball back with plenty of time. And Michigan's defense was able to rise to the occasion and make plays. That's what you're going to need to do this year if you want to defend the Big Ten crown. Some of these things I feel like we can all just agree with, okay, sometimes, look, good tacklers, replacing them with better athletes, talking about Josh Ross and Hawkins, maybe Antoine. To have 3 on the same team is crazy. Yeah, 3 freaks is what you're talking about. Let's go over the other freaks that made the list. There were 4 of them that made the list for Bruce Feldman. And number 7 was Michigan defensive end Julius Welschof. Now, Welschof had a huge list of things that I didn't even know about. I knew he was German, but he was a champion mogul skier. And, when you're going down the hill, here I am like simulating going down a mogul hill, you are able, it really helps your legs and flexibility with your ankles. They measure, apparently now, I didn't know this till today, that they measure your flexibility in your ankles. And Welschof, apparently, because of his skiing background, has this great flexibility in his ankles. I do remember, and then, they said, well, he walks 50 yards on his hands. Who's walking 50 yards on their hands? Like, we forget, man, these guys are all world-class athletes and some of the stuff that they're doing. And now we're taking the 1% of the freakish athletes and putting down some of their exploits. Walking 50 yards on their hands and being a championship mogul skier at whatever, what they call him, Juice, Welschof does. But if you remember the Turkish get-up last year, this was put on video with Michigan. They had Aiden Hutchinson doing it. I mean, you have the Olympic bar, and they had, I don't know, he had maybe 225s, but without the collars on him. And Hutchinson went down onto the ground and grabbed this Olympic bar and then was able to, without, because you have to keep it steady enough because it doesn't have the collars on there. So you got to keep it steady enough and you have to raise it up and then you have to get up and put that over your head. And I can remember at the time, Ben Herbert, who's Michigan's strength coach, saying this is the most incredible display of strength that he had ever seen in 25 years. Well, Welschof is doing it with more weight than Hutchinson last year. So Welschof, I don't know if you want to say, hey, who could surprise you on the Michigan defense, in particular on the Michigan defensive line? You got a freakish athlete like Welschof. Let's see a little bit of something from Julius Welschof Number 96 at defensive end. He's been in there a little bit, but now like a bigger role, and let's see it. If you can do, if you can walk 50 yards on your hands and you can do a Turkish get up with 160, and you got like another 100 things that we could talk about that, are incredible. How about getting to the quarterback a few times and tearing him down to the ground? Speaking of Herbert, the strength coach, he was quoted in that Feldman article saying that Mazi was the strongest player that he has seen in 25 years of being a strength trainer. Now, hey, look at all good stuff. Being able to take those tools and, use them on the field. What we're talking about. Transferable skills. DJ Turner came on last year at corner for Michigan, played pretty well. And in Harbaugh this week, I heard it and I thought, I think Harbaugh is, I think he misspoke. Because Harbaugh, I don't have the audio in there, but Harbaugh said, well, you got DJ Turner and Roman Wilson, running sub 4 threes, and Wilson staying right up with Turner, and then he just kind of went on, and I had to go back and I listened to it because I'm like, did he say the sub 4-4? I don't even know if sub 4-4 is blazing fast. So when Harbaugh said that Turner and Roman Wilson were running sub 4 threes, I went back and listened, and I chalked it up to, I think Harbaugh made a mistake there. But then I looked at the freak list today, and Feldman says that Turner was clocked with a GPS at 4.28. And Harbaugh this week said that Roman Wilson was running right with him. Running right with him means that he's just as fast to me. That's, come on. So we want to know who the two fastest players on the team? DJ Turner and Roman Wilson. These guys are running sub 4.3 40s. 30s. Oh, man. And then for those of you that really know the combine and some of the numbers, they were looking at what DJ Turner does in the 3-cone. I watch a couple minutes of that during the combines. Like, hey, here's a guy doing a 3-cone. According to Michigan, and what they told Feldman is that they think that Turner could break the NFL combine record for a 3-cone. You gotta change directions pretty quick. You gotta be lateral. All these 3-cone. It's you're showing some athleticism there. He's the best ever, apparently, and he's running a sub 4.3. These are things that I did not know. Michigan has a world-class speed corner. And they also have a world-class speedster at wideout and Roman Wilson, who I told everybody I think is going to lead Michigan in touchdown receptions this year. And then Kenneth Grant. We added him to our own freak list. We added him to the hype train this week. And part of it was because Feldman was sniffing around on Grant, all 360 of them. Talking about Grant running a sub 540 at 360 pounds, 6'4". Now, if you're just joining us, you didn't see the Mazi Smith jumping up the stairs routine that we have video. Here it is. Grant also did this at 360. He might be down closer to 350 now, but he's really improved this particular exercise. I don't have the video of Grant, although I think there is a video of Grant at 350, whatever he is, 355, doing this that Mazi's doing. So you have the list, the freak list. Mazi Smith, Julius Welshoff, DJ Turner, and Kenneth Grant. None of this is bad news for Michigan. John says Michigan's loaded on offense and they are reloading on defense. Malachi is getting hyped. So am I, Malachi. John is saying hello to everybody. And Antoine, had been telling people before the news even started, getting to the ears of the people about how much talent Michigan has got on the shelves. All right. You did, Antoine. You have been telling people all summer. Let's get to some practice news. We are going to talk about practice, not the games yet, still practice. Michigan has only been practicing for 1 week, but they have pads on now. We do have news coming out here and there on the Wolverines and what they're doing. And I wanted to look at the running back position. I continue to think this. I've said it a couple times. I'm going to say it again today. Blake Corum nationally gets a lot of respect. Blake Corum gets the hype and respect nationally. Like, you rank the running backs in the country. Blake Corum is in the top 5 by any national college football analyst, people that rank such things. You see Corum up there. He's right up there, of course, in the Big Ten too. The back from Ohio State, Henderson's up there, and you get Corum pretty quick. He is going to be on that list. And then, but here locally, he does not get the kind of attention. And I believe it's because you have the local product in Donovan Edwards, who was this short of being called a 5-star. And then late in the year, you saw his exploits against Maryland catching the ball. And then against Ohio State, there's just a little run out of the backfield where he stuck his hand out and the ball was right there. And it looked just so natural for Donovan Edwards. You're like, this guy's a superstar. And then he, threw the ball in the Big Ten championship games just to add to his lore, like, this guy looks like he's going to be a great one. He's going to play in the pros. Who knows how good he can be at Michigan? He's awesome. This tandem is great. The Corum Edwards tandem. But then after these two, who's going to be running back 3? And I've put some of the names. I think I put all of the candidates up on the board. Tavier Dunlap got a little work in spring. You saw him, 217 pounds, a sophomore. You got CJ Stokes. He's a true freshman at 196 pounds. We got some audio of Jim Harbaugh talking about Stokes. We've talked about A.J. Henning and Khalil Mullings, the linebacker, a lot. We've talked about the two change of pace guys, Henning, like Deebo Samuel, Khalil Mullings coming over from the defensive side as a thumper, guy certainly who weighs the most out of all those running backs. And if you're thinking about 3rd and short, 4th and short, 4th and goal, having somebody that just has some size that can lean, it helps. It helps. CJ Stokes is a freshman who weighs in at 196. Jim Harbaugh talked about his freshman running back, and here is that audio.
The young guy, CJ Stokes, I mean, you talk about a guy that does not appear to be a freshman in any way. I can tell you a couple great stories of his play. I mean, it reminds you a lot of Blake Corum as a runner and as a back. I mean, very, very good. And then it reminds you of Blake too, and just the way he's serious, how he approaches the game. I mean, he is locked in at all times.
Okay. Jim Harbaugh on CJ Stokes, a high praise for the freshman. He reminds him of Blake Corum. He went on in the Inside the Trenches podcast and told 2 stories about Stokes taping up his ankles, just how serious he is as a freshman. And I don't think anybody's going to sleep on any of these guys. It's not a sure thing of Dunlap, Stokes, Henning, Mullings, any of it, and how they're going to, serve up. Like, to me, I want Corum and Edwards to get the bulk of the carries. Remember during the pandemic, they had 4 guys and it didn't work. You can't have 4 guys. It's kind of like playing 2 quarterbacks. 4 is too many. So you got to trim that down for the bulk of the carry. Certainly, can you put Henning back in there for, a little bit? Can you have a short yardage guy? Of course. Can you give some sugar, to Dunlap? And are all these guys going to get some time in the first 3-4 games? Of course. because of the schedule. But, that's it. Otis indicating that there's disrespect for Michigan as reigning champs. I don't know. I haven't seen any disrespect. I mean, Michigan's ranked 6th by the coaches. Is that disrespectful? I thought they should have been 4. So, you can take that as disrespect. I think most people realize that that Michigan had a great year last year, and they also realize that they've got tons of talent and they've got a really nice schedule. I was talking to, I'd like to get a different opinion. I was asking a friend of mine who's a big college football fan, and here's what happens. Like, here we're focusing on the talent that's on the team and the upcoming schedule and how good they could be. And the only thing that this guy kept coming back to is like, well, what about Harbaugh leaving? What about him, interviewing with the Vikings? I mean, he was gone for about 24 hours. Everybody thought he was gone. How do the players feel about that? How do the recruits feel about that? And, is that cast a pall over, the team this summer? And, I go back and it didn't help. In the end, I was glad that Jim Harbaugh came back because Michigan, wherever they would have gone without Harbaugh, they would not be in the same spot here. There would have been guys hitting the transfer portal, and Michigan had a lot of guys there. I had explained to him, look, he told everybody he was going to do this. Players on the team, nobody, hit the road. Could it affect, high school players and their parents thinking, hey, he did it the year before. I felt like he did. And then look at, he did it this year. He's going to be gone the first chance, even though he said he was done. Is there a possibility? Yeah, I think certainly rivals, not rivals.com, but Michigan's rivals. You talk to a Michigan State fan, they know those are some of the first words out of their mouth. You talk to an Ohio State fan, yeah, I mean, that's what they do. I mean, they'll use their particular Scott Bells, their trolls, their hired trolls, and they'll go after you. And is there something to that? Like, it caused in the off season, there was a lot of stories about it. How much it's going to affect this particular team. I don't think it's going to affect this particular team, but we'll have to wait on recruiting to see. I think name, image, and likeness is a lot bigger factor than, Harbaugh's flirtation with the Vikings. But that is me. Before we go any further, let's get some more feedback. This one comes in from LTM, who says Michigan's offense is crazy talented. I thought we had fire with DPJ, Black, Bell. I'm drawing a blank on the 4th, probably the Nico Collins, wide receiver, but was fire on paper. Yeah, well, 2019. I mean, that's the thing. I really like Michigan's defensive line, tight ends, wide receivers, running back. I mean, the whole thing, the whole enchilada. And you could say, wow, when's the last time they had this kind of talent? Well, 3 years ago, they had this kind of talent with, they had a returning quarterback. They had their best offensive line in a decade, but Patterson got hurt on the first play of the game. Gaddis employed some kind of handoff system and 2-quarterback system with Patterson and Dylan McCaffrey. And then they started fumbling the ball, and it was contagious. And nothing will kill a talented offense more than, self-inflicted wounds. And that's what happened. And then Patterson, maybe it was his injury, or maybe it was what I thought all along, is for some reason that kid, that guy, Shea Patterson, could not throw the ball downfield more than 20 yards with his feet set in a clean pocket to save his life. That's an issue. He could run around with a chicken with his head cut off and make some plays, and sometimes he just gun it in. Real arm talent between the hashes, 10, 15, even 20 yards. Woo! Pretty. Throwing the ball down the field with nobody in his face, couldn't do it. Couldn't stretch the field. That scrunched it all up. Then you add in the fumbles. That hurts him. All right, let's see what else we got cooking here. People talking about the disrespect that Michigan has this year. Okay, that gets us to the old television contract situation here, and this happened a couple days ago. You heard that the big divorce. We're all college football fans. I think college football fans, just by nature, you're a traditionalist. And ESPN, come on, they play sports all day. Big Ten football, Big Ten basketball, Dickie V, everybody else that you could just think of. I mean, it's ESPN. 40 years, and now you're not going to have any more Big Ten in football and basketball. Here's a couple things that I'm thinking about. Everybody can look at this. I mean, you can start looking at the numbers and all kinds of different things, but here's the couple things that I think about. I don't think that this is going to be that big of a deal for football. I feel like it's going to be a lot bigger of a deal for basketball. ESPN played I watched a lot of ESPN games. It was like ESPN, and what they did for college basketball and Big Ten basketball was a big deal. Not as big for football. And really, when I watch, Fox, college football Fox, man, I like Klatt and Gus Johnson myself. So I like that team. The All-American girl, Jenny Taft, their number one team. I like them as well as anyone. So I like that part. The part that I don't like about Fox, what am I going to do? If they seem like they take extremely long breaks, long commercials, I know they paid their money to do that, but, it gets really tiresome. Here's the kickoff. We'll, talk about Michigan's offensive series when we come back. Oh, there's a punt. We'll be right. It affects you as you're watching the game. So, that's the one argument. Everybody agrees, and Fox would say, too bad. Watch the spots. We're making a lot of money. We paid a lot of money. We're making a lot of money. Okay. Money's a big part of it. You get that. The part that I would also complain about, and it sounds like I'm a lazy consumer. Consumers are lazy. FS1 is buried on a channel 90 on my system, and a lot of the times the game's being played on FS1. They're also playing some rodeo or something. At times it's not a go-to channel. So you forget. I mean, you have to really look at the menu, and you have to really schedule it. You don't just flip through and say, oh, there's a college basketball game at 9 o'clock that I would like to watch. So it's not as convenient, especially for college basketball. And I'll put college football in there too. It's not as convenient. Now, CBS getting Big Ten football is exciting. It's exciting because I can go back, and many of you can as well, before there was high def TV. And then you got high def, and it was like we had all died and gone to heaven. Let's see if I can get that theme here, see if that's going to work for me. Here I am talking about how great the audio and digital is, and this is not coming through as great audio or digital. You get the idea there. So when they did go to high def, and you could watch CBS, their either afternoon or their night game of the SEC network, and you would watch it on your screen, it was like you had died and gone to heaven. And you're sitting there watching this, and you're like, there's nothing better. This is life. This is the greatest invention of all time. High def SEC football on CBS, 4K, 5K. I don't know what it is. And it looks like I'm there. I love it. Now look, everybody has high def, all these other ones, but for some reason, CBS's comes in a little bit clearer. And I don't know, it reminds me maybe of, fountain Coke from McDonald's. A lot of people have got fountain Coke. Some people, you can have it out of the bottle. They swear by the fountain Coke at McDonald's. Whatever the mixture is, the lines are cold. I don't know what they do to keep it and make it so great where people love it. Diet Coke, regular Coke, whatever. But CBS, their high def for college football, it hits different. And so watching the Big Ten on CBS, I like that. And my worry is, and this is a worry, like it can happen. Maybe if every Michigan game is on football and basketball, I don't care if I have to hunt down the Big Ten Network or FS1 or NBC or CBS. I have all of those. When you get to streaming, though, this is where it gets a little tricky. And I'll just take this summer for an example. The Tigers. I still watch the Detroit Tigers. There have been a couple of times. I remember the big weekend series against the Yankees coming up. I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch the Yankees. I'm going to watch the Yankees against the Tigers, measuring stick and everything else. Like, wait a second, the game's not on. You had to go to the YouTube. Well, okay, YouTube, I can put that right through my smart TV. It took me about a minute. Boom. I got it. I watched the game. Another time it was on YouTube. They didn't have any announcers, and it was just up there, the sounds of the game. Hey, they're trying something different. Whatever. I watched it. Another time they had it on YouTube. The announcers sucked, but I watched it anyways. I don't know, different announcers. It's okay. But then they went over to Paramount. Or I'm sorry, I have Peacock. That's what they went to. The NBC streaming service. And I don't know if the first one I was able to get free. Like they said, hey, sign up. You're going to watch the Tiger game. I signed up. I watched it. Hey, not too shabby. But then the last time I went and the Tigers were on, they were playing the Blue Jays. It's a Friday night. They said, hey, the game's on Peacock. I'm like, okay. Now I got to go upstairs. Downstairs, I don't have the capabilities with my, it's not a smart TV, so I go upstairs. And I get Peacock and it says $5.99 if I want to watch the Tiger game. I'm like, I'm not paying $5 to watch a Tigers game. So that's the hesitation there, that if they go to the stream, and I get that, like and we're going to have to deal with it. The thing is, I already pay hundreds of dollars, for cable. And so you say, well, it's another $5. I don't think Michigan is going to be kicked to Peacock. But I don't know. All of Michigan's games normally they're on ABC. Michigan State too. If one's at noon, the other one's 3:30. You get the back-to-back games. It's pretty cool. Is that going to be CBS now? Is that going to be NBC? I'm all right with that. But my problem will be with if they're kicking things to Peacock or some other, Amazon. I have Amazon, but it's also one of those things you have to go through, some button pushing. It's not as easy. I like it nice and easy when I'm watching games and be able to find them. Then football, I'm going to find them. Basketball, I'm going to find them. But, maybe that's just a lament of somebody that's over 50 now. I want my games all right there on the menu, and I want them in the first 30 channels so I can all check it out. I can look at goes, and yeah, I can search and I can see whatever else, but I don't want to go down to 91. I don't want to flip over to Peacock and then have to fire that one up, because know what I like doing? I like, if it's not Michigan, I like watching Alabama, take on Arkansas, and I like, watching Ohio State maybe play Wisconsin, but I like flipping the games back and forth. And if one of them's on Peacock and the other one is on CBS, I gotta exit out of my app, and then I've got to pick up the other remote, and then I've got to hit that one. I want one button. Now, the technology should be there where all of that is going to be right in my hand. Let's make that happen. Just like with my DVR, when I want to reverse and fast forward, let's make it, because some of the systems you can zip forward really quick. Mine, it takes me a million years if I want to sit and fast forward through a whole game. I want to be able to go times 16, times 32 a lot quicker. And maybe I just need to call my cable provider and tell them I need these new things. Maybe it all happens. But that's all my complaint. I want one TV, condensed channels, and I want to just be able to flip one button. I don't want to have to hit exit out, menu, over to another game. I mean, how can I, by the time I do that, I might as well just watch the commercials. I want to be able to flip through and watch multiple games without having to go to Peacock or Amazon or way down to FS1, all the way back up to NBC. That's why it was nice. They're relatively close together. You get you got a game on Fox, you got a game on NBC, you got a game on ABC. Let's go, CBS, ESPN's up there a little bit. You can take all those games and you're watching them. Not with what's going on now. Maybe I need to get with Third Dimension, who's got 3 TVs in one room. You know what? I think that's going to be the ticket because I do now. I either take my computer or I take this particular screen right here, which is called an iPad. I forgot, which I have set to a beach scene, which I was hoping that was going to be very relaxing for everyone. Let's just take a little break and relax to the serene beach here. If I can let everybody get up there, let's watch a little bit of that. Let's go. The waves lapping up onto the beach, but I can punch my TV up and watch another game through there. So that's nice. And I do suppose that because I do take my computer, my laptop, and I do the same thing, I could probably have 3 screens. Maybe I don't need to have the additional TV with an additional setup. All of these things are things that everybody's thinking about. And I'll tell you this, it could be a win. I think it's going to be a win for my mom, who has never had cable or satellite. 10 or 15 years ago, she bought they weren't rabbit ears. She bought a little box, for just regular TV. It's scanned, and she doesn't get all the channels. She doesn't get Channel 7, I don't think. I don't think she gets Channel 4, but she gets Fox because last year I went over to her house and the Ohio State-Oregon game was on, and it was perfect. But if you live in a spot where you can just you don't need cable or anything, you can just get your old digital antenna, you can get 2, 4, and 7. You might be in business. This might be great for you. Might be a great move for your TV watcher who does not have cable. They call it cord cutters that are just dealing with the just regular, what did I call it? Digital TV? Is that what you call it? All right. Captain's got his room bumping. Let's just see how everybody is bumping it. LTM watches the game on a tablet or phone. I would have broke it. I need my TV. Well, sometimes you're out and about and you can't do anything about it. And yeah, sure enough, I keep this. If I am watching it, it's not like I keep it about right here. It's not, and you can't fast forward in the reverse, which sometimes you like to do. But it's nice having a second screen option. What I have seen are the TVs that you've got like a 55-inch screen, and then like right there built in, it kind of you could quad it, or you can make your ones 55-inch, and then you get still like 30-inch selections, and you can go to other games. I mean, that's next level. I'm not there yet. I like bigger. I like bigger TVs myself. I'm with you, LTM. Let's see what Antoine says about watching these games. They should be making it available on YouTube. The networks and YouTube should get together. I don't know. YouTube's got their own thing rolling. I don't know. YouTube's got something. It's a premium. And you got to pay for it, but they've got something that you can buy and you can get in there. Florida is watching. That's nice. Almost all college games are accessible, but name, image, and likeness will change that. Just like the NFL, they will need extra money to pay the players. Well, all games are accessible. It depends. Like, I don't know. Like if you're not living in Michigan, you would have to tell me, can you always watch Michigan games anytime? I don't know the answer to that. I know that if games in the past were not on ESPN, if they were not on the Big Ten Network, you knew that it would be on ABC. You just knew that. All Michigan games. I don't remember a time that there was a Michigan football game that was not televised. I think State gets, I don't know, screwed or whatever. Maybe State's games are all on too. I don't know. I can't tell you that for a fact. But Michigan games, I don't know if there's ever been a game in my life that has not been available on TV. But I lived, with the exception of 2 years, in the great state of Michigan. So I'm not sure. Kicking it to streaming to make you sign up and then pay their premium. I mean, that's what we're used to it. We don't like it. When the NFL last year or the year before went to their Thursday night game, in addition, they had it on TV, but they also moved it over to Amazon Prime. I didn't mind that because why? I have Amazon Prime. And here in the studio, I actually don't have cable hooked up into the Peach Mountain studio, but I do have a TV that gets Amazon Prime. So I was hanging out in the studio all out on Thursday nights, watching Thursday Night Football. But I don't want to pay for Peacock, or nobody wants to. I think wants to pay for any of the streaming. Let's get all the feedback out here. Scott has lived out of state. He watches every single Michigan game every season. I live in Missouri. What's up? Is that the Show Me State? Let's go. I used to drive annually through Missouri on my way down to Arkansas to visit my dad. Malachi does it in Tennessee. Antoine's saying you need the Big Ten Network to watch these games. Back in the day, I used to watch it on 7. I hear you. Luke is in Morocco. He had to buy Hulu and get a VP Plus. He has ESPN International, but got all the games. Go Blue. You're getting it done, Luke. I remember when I lived in England. And the first year I lived there, we had this was in the early 90s, no satellite, no cable. We had BBC 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these BBCs are crazy. You'd be watching primetime, 5 o'clock. They'd have a gardening show on. Hey, what, 5 o'clock, primetime? Gardening. Let's go to a cooking show at 7 o'clock on the BBC. After 1 year, there was something called Sky TV, which was it's probably way better now. But they would give you one NBA game for the week. And whatever game that was, they would pick it. They would play it all week. Like 20 times it'd be offered. But if the game sucked, I remember one time it was the Pistons made it. They played the Jazz, and the Jazz beat them by like 40 points. I watched that game like 4 or 5 times. They did play NFL games on the BBC, but they condensed it down to like an hour. They had this old kicker, Skip Luckhurst, I think his name was, and he would come on there. And you knew, like, if the team got the ball, they're like, oh, this side has the ball at the 30. You pretty much knew if they were deep in their own end, they were going to punt. But then if, they had the ball over the 50, you almost could tell what was going to happen. They were going to score. But that was a long time ago. I'm sure you can get all the games now with a satellite dish, and you can do it. LTM, his daughter and wife are shopping. He's in for the Michigan talk. All right. I'm in for the Michigan talk. I'm here. Florida was referring to the NFL ticket. He can handle paying $5 a month for. Yeah, I don't know. Like I pay. I know. I always update it because I always hear my wife's like, "Did you update it to the gold?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Well, it must be September because I go to what's that thing called, the red zone, the NFL red zone. I like the NFL red zone. I know some people can't handle it. It's like it's a little bit too much. You get commercial-free football for 6 straight hours. I like that part. I also like fantasy football, and so for 6 hours, it's not bad. It's also nice to have an additional TV or 2. Excuse me, but if you are out of town, I could definitely see where you would want to buy the NFL ticket because you get the option of then buying all of the games. And if you're a Lions fan living in Florida, you're not going to get many Lions games unless you buy the NFL ticket. We don't have that problem up here. We get all the stinking Lions games now that they lifted those archaic blackout rules. Back when I was young, when Barry Sanders was playing, Barry freaking Sanders, the greatest running back of all time. You want to just say the most electric running back of all time? Whatever. He's certainly one of the greatest running backs of all time. Playing for the Lions, Monday night game, Ford Field against the Buccaneers, blacked out. Luckily, there were some places, I don't know if it's still around, George's Inn in Ypsilanti. I remember the first time I came walking in, let's call it a dive bar. It's a dive bar. And people kind of look at you like, that was a very nice it's dive bar, dark. You get in there. I'm like, I heard they played the game. So I come walking in and, I sit down. Everybody's kind of looking at you. And it's like, are the Lions going to be on here? And everyone's, yeah, they get excited. I think they ask you if you're a cop or something like that. I mean, it was illegal to do. The blackout games. All right, I'm getting way off track. P-Wog, get to the clubhouse. I'm so sorry about that. I tried to put that CBS anthem up here, and it's just not coming through really well. So I didn't go through Clubhouse. Let's see. Clubhouse. There you go. We are available on Clubhouse. Here's Paul. Let's see what he's saying. He's got pneumonia and flu. He's missed most of the show. He thinks that there was a lot of Big Ten ESPN Plus basketball. Yeah, I don't know. Every Michigan game, and look, I live in Washtenaw County as well, so even sometimes they would dump it down to some like local channel. I liked when last year they were playing the exhibition game down in Wayne State, talking about Michigan. I paid, I don't know, was it $6 to watch that exhibition game? I didn't need to. Old Ant was just pirating it free on Twitter. I could have gone that route, but I paid by $5. That's off the topic, but the Michigan basketball team is going to Europe, and they're going to play, some games over there. And I was thinking, well, I'll pay $6 to watch, Michigan play basketball over, but apparently they're not going to stream these games. Somebody was talking about, getting the athletes some money for name, image, and likeness. How tough is it to set a camera up at mid-court, pay somebody $50 to follow the action, pay somebody else over here, and there'd be millions of people, myself included, who could run a basketball game. I could run it from this very studio and give you the play-by-play of what's going on. Low cost. Stream it. 5, 6, 7, I don't know. Would I pay $10 to watch a grainy exhibition game? Probably. Maybe not 5 or 6 of them, but maybe 1 or 2. I can see Yo-Yo and Terrace Reed and Jet Howard. I'm in. So, but they're not, apparently those games are not being streamed. Paul wants to know if college basketball, if there'll be more BTN Plus games. I don't know. I'm not familiar with BTN Plus or ESPN Plus. I did have ESPN Plus at one point. I liked it because they condensed games down and you could watch basketball that way, but I don't know. Probably, Paul, I'm probably going to have to add, something to be able to get these games. Since you didn't pay $5, you can pay my Bally Sports Detroit $20 for the Wings season. That's what Paul's saying. Do you recall getting off the couch to turn the channel on the black and white TV? LOL. Unless it's a privacy thing, please allow direct Twitter messages. I think I do allow direct Twitter messages. In fact, I'm going to check that right now for you. Because I have always, I don't want to say I've prided myself, but I thought always allowed. You're right. I am not allowing people. I thought at one point I did. So I don't know if I changed it. I'll change that, Paul, so you can get me some direct Twitter messages. There you go. Okay, great. Is there anything else that I wanted to get there for you? There is. Malachi has no clue what to expect from the basketball team. They're going to be pretty exciting. They're not going to be the Big Ten season favorite. I think you can expect tournament, how well they come together, how well the freshmen, how well they're able to find some outside shooting. I think all of those things is what you're talking about. Anybody that's telling you, it's a Final Four, nobody can. They're not going to make the tournament. I'm not buying either of those extremes. But this particular team, they've got Hunter Dickinson, best player in the Big Ten, a chance at the best player in the country, a chance. So you get a guy like Hunter Dickinson, you're doing something. Excited about basketball. Antoine, there's some greedy, people for sure. They are greedy. Is JJ going to be the starting quarterback in 22 at any point from Florida? Yeah, Florida, I am predicting that JJ will take over and be the starting quarterback for the Iowa game, October 1st. That's when I think it's going to happen. I had to make my prediction on that, and I did. That's how I think it's going to go down. So there it is. Quick question on our third quarterback. Davis Warren is the third string quarterback, unless it's going to be one of the two freshmen, Alex Orji or Jaden Denegal. I saw enough of Davis Warren throwing the football around in the spring game to see that he's got a Big Ten arm, a Big Ten starting quarterback arm. I mean, he can really throw it all around. Kid had to go through a lot with leukemia in his high school years, going through the pandemic, not a lot of tape on him. Michigan was able to discover him however they did it. And, Warren, he could go a lot of places and I think get a scholarship and play quarterback. And maybe, who knows how it's going to shake out? It could be, at Michigan. So who knows? He definitely did look good in the spring game. Florida's watched it 10 times. I don't know if I've watched it 10 times, but I have watched it a few times. Coming up tomorrow, you will be able to hear from former Wolverine Jim Scarcelli. Scar is going to be worked up about the prospects of this Michigan football team. He, like Antoine, early in the summer was telling everybody, hey, the defense is going to be pretty good. Offense is going to be pretty good. Michigan's going to be pretty good. And, I was trying to hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves about, but Scar is predicting great things for the Wolverines. We'll see where he's at tomorrow. We'll be here at 1:00. I want to thank everybody for watching or listening, and then all the folks participating. You guys are great. Go through here, throw some of the names. Florida, I think, is a new one, unless he changed his names. Great to hear from all of you. We will be here tomorrow at 1:00 talking about the latest in Michigan. So until then, have a great rest of your Wednesday. I'm signing off. See ya.